Hello and welcome to the Wednesday check-in here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is March 26th, 2025. And, well, Bitcoin is still pulling back here on the daily. So last that we spoke on Monday, Bitcoin had already come up and hit the essentially this low over here, which coincides with the first bearish candle kind of close open post expansion out of the range that Bitcoin was breaking out of from last year. And of course, this was in November of last year. It broke out of that range and started to get expansion on the daily up. And its first bearish candle that it put in there on the 12th, well, the low is at 85. Last that we talked about this, that was the area that I told you we need to watch to the downside. And that is still the main area to watch to the downside, even though we do have a little bit of a daily uptrend going right into the resistance where the close open came in right there. And in this case, we also saw a higher low pivoted off of this close open. So that's at that 88,700 level that held up as resistance. So far has not been retested since the Monday session. Now, of course, when we were talking on Monday, the Tuesday candle was already open, and it did look as though things might pull back, and that's, what we're seeing. But what we're also seeing is an expansion to the downside to compression. Now, we do have a little bit of a shorter term time frame uptrend here, and, one of the big things that we want to pay attention to now is, does this uptrend remain intact if this pulls back further? And that means that we have to identify the last higher low on a swing and a close, and that is going to be at 83,100. We talked about this again on Monday. The close open is also something to pay attention to, as it is just below the basis band for the daily here, coming in at 83,850 or so. And the basis band even is coming in at 84,225. So Bitcoin is playing in the strong half of the Bollinger Bands here. It is in a daily uptrend. It has just pulled back from overhead resistance upon its first test of that overhead resistance, which is a key area that we're going to expand on in a few minutes here. But, this is the first retest of this area as resistance, and first pass, you expect a rejection, right? Especially coming off lower lows like this. So what I would look for is as we're starting to see the bands compress a little bit, they're kind of compressing into a range at this moment. And as long as Bitcoin's in the strong half, looking fine. Realistically, it's looking fine. I would like to see the weekly close above $85,000. We'll get into that in just a moment, especially the monthly, quarterly, as that is, of course, this swing low of that same first bearish candle post expansion out of the range that's down below price action right now. So that high side of that range at 68 to about 73,835, 74K, depending on your exchange. Here on Coinbase, it is 73,835. Now, the upper second standard deviation is right there at that key level overhead at 89. It's right around $89,000, which is also this swing low over here on the daily. But more importantly, this is a big swing higher low on the weekly that, of course, we saw a breakdown from into lower lows on the weekly. Now, we'll look at the weekly just for a brief moment here shortly, but let's define a few other things that are happening here, because we do have, price moving from expansion into compression. Initially, we're looking at, the upper first as a volatility level of interest. If that does fall apart on a close, if it hasn't already ran, Wednesday's low at, 85,850, then I would be looking, if it hasn't already done so, I would be looking for it to get ran down to somewhere around the basis band and this last higher low on the daily, which is at that 84,225. And just real quick here, we'll go ahead and just kind of spec out that close open down there at 83,850. In this case, 83,850.203 for spot price. Oops, sorry, wrong thing. And then, of course, that swing low at 83,100 or $83,000 on a lot of derivative exchanges as well, and in some cases even lower. But this is going to be kind of the tighter range that Bitcoin would be playing in if that did break down. I would look to the lower first, somewhere around this higher low swing down here. That's coming in at just around $82,000 or slightly below, to the swing low there at 81,125. This also is right where this close open came in. This was a close open that this essentially avoided closing this high, but it did set the swing high to swing higher low. And then we had a higher high close that did, oh, actually, no, that's right. It didn't actually close above this swing high, but we did get a lower high close in this case, because this wasn't a lower high close confirmation because it didn't close below the 80,572. So anybody's has been watching my my analysis for a while is if we're going to get three candle structures like this usually isn't going to confirm as a high on a closing basis, but it will confirm the swing high, which it did. The lower high on a close is actually right around the basis band, so that low $84,000 region. So very important. If that's dropped, it's running this higher low, and if it closes below it, then it breaks this shorter term uptrend here. And then I'd be looking for, is it going to turn into a deviation, or does it pop back up and make lower highs as it relates to this high up here on a swing or a close basis? And then if that were to occur, then we're looking back to the lows. Realistically, I would still give things a chance. We do have, that's many people are bringing this up, and shout out to Alpha Gamer if he watches this, but he brought it up today because I didn't mention it on ATC with Dave Cool and Nat, but there's something like 12 billion in options expiry or something like that going on. So that, of course, is going to be on Friday. And that could cause some movement within the market if those positions unwind in an unfavorable way for price action. Let's put it that way. But realistically, we have to see how things kind of play out in this Thursday session that's now open. Yes, it's still Wednesday for me, but it is Thursday for Bitcoin. And see how this kind of plays out into the Friday session. It should give us some clues. Now, this will confirm a high on closes below. I would take the close open here right around $86,100 to $86,000. If we start seeing closes below there, this will be a confirmed higher high as it relates to this little uptrend that we got going on here for Bitcoin. If we do see things kind of fall apart and this resistance hold up and structure break to the downside below around 83 to 83,100 at the swing low, while I would be cognizant of, the close open somewhere around 82.5 to the swing here at 81,125 where this close open is, realistically, I would be looking at the possibility, if it gets into the bearish half of the bands, to come back down and retest the low side structure here around, $79.5 to $80,000 by the lower second, which of course would bring into play this swing low that was not closed below on this lower low close at 78.5, but this is our 78,167 low that was not closed below, but all of this would be fair game down to the lower low. Anywhere below there, we're looking for a retest of the high side structures over here, and we'll get into that in just a moment. So let's go ahead and turn on support and resistance. We'll get rid of kind of the support and resistance kind of areas that I've been pointing out here. Another thing to note here, I think I showed this, but no, this is a trend-based fib. This is something I was showing somebody else about the bear market from last cycle, which is not relevant because we are not in a structural bear market. We are in a structural bull market on macro time frames right now for Bitcoin. The same cannot be said for everything in the crypto space, but I think that long form accumulation is the name of the game for alts right now. All right, what did I want to do? Let's check on a few things before we turn on support and resistance, areas of interest, and confluence levels. The daily is right up against resistance and is showing, you know, it's in the overbought zone for a regular stoke. Not that concerning. It can stay up here for a while. This is a regular stoke, so it's measuring close over close price momentum, not a stoke RSI that is a derivative indicator that is measuring the velocity of RSI. In this case, we're going to go look at RSI. We don't need that because we're going to go look at it. The pivot's going to be 86,269. Nice. And to fall out of the overbought zone up here, it's going to be $86,000. Please ignore the oversold on this particular indicator. This will update more aggressively to probably some more relevant prices, but it is around 58,325 right now. It's not relevant until we see a turn and price closer to the bearish control zone, which you can play bullish and bearish control zones for a regular stoke. Look, price needs to make some more progress. The key areas that I want to see reclaimed just from a daily structural point of view, and we'll kind of dive into this a little bit further, but I need to see this high taken out at 92.8. There's a weekly at 93.5, and then we got to take out the twin tower candles at the top side, which is confluent with the bottom side as a retest over here of this consolidation before the move down. That's at $95,000 or just slightly over it. Price action below 95 is in daily bearish territory. Is it in macro bearish territory? No. But for the daily prices below $95,000 for Bitcoin, I would still consider in the bearish territory, even if it does reclaim the overhead range. And let's go ahead and turn on the areas of interest in terms of support and resistance and see if we can find some confluences here. So this move originated from the $95,000 to $96,000 region on a close. And that was retested, right? Nearly hitting the close opens up here. And that was on the big pump up after the big dump off down to 78 essentially. Now, Bitcoin coming up and retesting and especially being above the upper first is great. That's a good sign. But if it starts to lose it, look to $85,000. Again, that's the first bearish candle post expansion out of this prior range. That's the low of it. And of course, Bitcoin has tested the close open of the bullish to bearish candle over here. This is also confluent with where this higher low came in and the 1.168. So it's a big area for Bitcoin to reclaim. You can call it $89,000 just to have the even numbers where the weekly higher low swing is up there as well. Also, right around in between this 88,700, $89,000 to 92 at this zone here, which is this close open higher low structure right here. This was the higher low that came in after this higher low right off the 1.168 at 88.7. Well, this is at $92,000, and this is kind of where we saw some front runs in terms of price action, then some liquidity grabs in here in this zone. Before finally closing in it and then breaking down from it after testing, trying to get above it. This area needs to be reclaimed. We see that the upper second and upper third are just about bracketing it between that 89 and 92. Anywhere above there, we have to see some nice daily closures and preferably a weekly reclaim of the weekly higher low on a closing basis at 93.5 to go test the bottom side of this consolidation. Try to take out the twin tower candles there at $95,000. And of course, this is we had 1, 2, 3 higher lows and even a fourth in here that tried for this area up here at around the initial push up to the then, put in the all-time high before going into a shorter term time frame trend reversal setup. So we want to see this area reclaimed. And even if Bitcoin does get into the bottom side of this area and try to push up to that weekly, it's still not doing much for me until it's above on the daily at minimum, closing above $95,000 and then reclaiming and starting to push back to the highs. And then we have other things to evaluate from some longer term time frames. RSI, not showing me too much. Obviously, there's bearish divergence in play if it does put in a high here as it relates to some of the highs over here that are just above it on a close. Specifically, 92,800, right? And on a close open, we're looking at 90,600. So right around where the hedge funds unwound their positions, right at support here, which was roughly $90,000 to key level within this red zone overhead. Need to hold 85. Price looks fine above 85. It could even dip slightly below. You just don't want to see it taken out 83,100 on a swing. And preferably you don't want to see it taken out, 83,850. So between that 81 and 83,850 at the close open there on the daily. Warnings will start flashing on lower term time frame closes below 85. So just keep an eye on it. And you just need that reclaim overhead. Let's go ahead and take a look at some higher term time frames just to kind of wrap this up today. And yes, we will peek at Ethereum and Solana. It's the upper first standard deviation confluent with that 1.168, which is 16.8% above the prior cycle highs to the most recent bear low. So 69 to $15,500. And, playing off the lower second, expected bounce when we're moving into compression on the Bollinger Band set. Yes, we had a volatile move within the Bollinger Bands to the downside, but it was, expansion to compression. We were expecting the bounce. We got it. Now we want to see a reclaim of essentially $89,000. We'll just call it 89. Something to watch for Thursday, Friday, and then of course into the weekend, especially with the options roll on Friday, or expiry, and obviously it's going to be rolling into new positions. So let's go ahead and get rid of this mess on the charts and just kind of remind ourselves of the fact that this is a consolidation structure on a weekly time frame after expansion, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't resolve to the downside in terms of expansion. Closes below 82 would do it, and then likely we're retesting the lows and possibly the highs of this prior range over here, which of course is that 68 in this case 250. You can just call it $68,000 to the 73,835 over here. That would put it into full-on expansion, especially if it started closing under there. But it is compression still on the bands. Some nice volatility between the upper second and lower second here. Now, you can even see the basis band on the weekly, which is the 20 simple, is just under 95,000. If this were to start pushing this week, this will be at $95,000. I expect it to be at $95,000, provided price closes anywhere like this coming into next week. Either way, so we can just call it 95. Let's move on and take a look at Ethereum and Solana, and then we're going to wrap this up. That's traditional markets. Don't really care about that right now. I mean, I do, but not for this video. Let's go to Ethereum. Still holding $2,000. Again, it's at a red zone. This is a major level of support that it needed to hold. And on the weekly, of course, I noted that even if it closes above and sets a low above 2,070 bucks, it needs to reclaim 2,100. And within this zone between 2,100 and 2,300, it needs to close above 2,152. So that would look really good by the end of the week if it can do it. Daily, of course, you see rejecting just like Bitcoin. It's above the basis band in this case. It actually rejected the upper first, not even the upper second. So keep an eye on 1936, the last higher low in the daily. Is there bearish divergence? Yes, continuation drives locked in, actually. So this high is in as of the Wednesday closure. Now the Thursday session, as I noted earlier, is open right now. So just keep an eye on this higher low. Otherwise, and you can see the close open here of this lower high coming in right at that 1937. And then we have 1936 at this swing low. If this does break down from there, I'm looking for a retest of the lows, possibly. The close open lows are in play at that point at 1863 down to just under 1800. And you want to see the ETH bulls hold that area. Otherwise, party's on to the bigger zone to the downside. we'll see how things kind of turn out. But anywhere below the swing low, that's kind of this is a bunch of weeklies in terms of major swings. 1750 to 1754 at the swing low. Anywhere below there, we're looking to the upper 1600 area at 1677, 1675, and then below there it's $1,500. So, and then really getting down there, it's 1369. Nice, but I've noted on the daily a few times now for Ethereum, 2320 is the number to beat, and that's above the red zone that Ethereum is getting its first pass rejection from right now. So 2320 is above that important weekly in the red zone at 2300, and then it still needs to go up and take out the twin tower highs up here at 550 or so. So just keep that in mind. If it's going to be constructive, it'll hold the lows and then try to push in and reclaim some of these zones. It will take a little bit of time, though, I suspect. Let's go ahead and take a look at Solana. Solana is at 137, near 138. This high is confirmed. This high is on bearish divergence, a continuation drive at that. We've got 136 as the pivot for the daily. Look, shorter term time frame uptrend. It swung the close open lower high right here. If it comes back down to 130, it's fine. Just keep an eye on the big weekly support. So where Ethereum broke down from in terms of its major red zone, where it was holding support on the weeklies, it broke down to the next level. Well, this is the area, this is the major weekly that we need to see hold up in terms of price action. This is where Ethereum was before it broke down. Solana is in a stronger position trying to hold its major weekly support in this case. So bulls want to see this area hold on a close, especially on a weekly close. Yes, we got to dip into it. That's fine. Last higher low is a bit of a distance away at this particular moment. Just keep an eye on anything below 130. Keep an eye on this 125 to the most recent swing lows. In terms of higher low structure at 124.81, so pretty tight between there and the weekly by the lower first. Anywhere below there, we're essentially looking down at 120, and if it's going to hit that, and anywhere below that lower second standard deviation, we're looking for expansion to retest the low at 112. That zone, that white zone, this is weekly within a weekly, is down to $100. So it's essentially 120 to $100 is fair game if it starts closing anywhere around this lower low. So something just to keep a close eye on. Weekly, this is such a big area for Solana. I mentioned, I give my thoughts about what I think would be constructive. You don't want to see this bolting back to the top side. That'd be bearish. You want to see it create lower high, higher low, equal low structure, and then take out that lower high, compress, and then re-expand to the highs and higher for a run. But so I do think it's going to take a little while for Ethereum and Solana. I don't think I think that many are going to get very, very bored waiting if this plays out the way I think it's going to and remains still bullish like this. So weekly again is going to be 127. So bulls want to see close above there, get a nice momentum shift back to the upside. And yeah, looks good to try and hold that if it closes anywhere here, right? It's $10 away, but $10 can be eaten up very quickly. So definitely want to pay attention to the Thursday, Friday session. Of course, I will talk to you after the Friday close with the Friday wrap up. You have yourselves a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all that being said, Landy out. Take care.